that until they're no longer first class and second class citizens of
the NBA trade deadline usually offers potential for exciting deals, and oh boy, has this one delivered already. Eight-time All-Star and NBA champion Kyrie Irving requested to be traded from the Brooklyn Nets on Friday, and within 2 days his request was granted. Despite interest from both the Suns and the Lakers for Kyrie's services, on Sunday the Nets traded Kyrie to Dallas for Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and 2 future draft picks. Kyrie now joins All-Star and MVP candidate Luka Doncic in Dallas, forming one of the most formidable offensive tandems in the NBA. Well, our NBA correspondent, Alistair Albert, joins us to discuss the possible ramifications of this trade. Good afternoon, Alistair.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me as usual.
You're welcome. So how does this Dallas experiment work? Does it work or no?
Does it work or no? We have to play the games to find out, because it's one of these things. Basketball is one of these games. You kind of have to see what happens on the court to kind of determine what happens. But what you tend to do to analyze the game is kind of go based on pattern, or kind of try to extrapolate what you've seen before to try to predict what might happen. What we could say on paper, this is a tremendous pairing. Two offensive guys who just have the knack for scoring the ball and have all different ways to do that. In terms of how they will work and how it will fit, it will be another story, because, there are 2 ball-dominant guys who take over 20 shots per game. Which one is going to sacrifice? Who is going to be willing to do more catching and shooting? Like as you have on the graphic right there, they 33.4 points for Luka and 27 for Kyrie. Luka is a lot more of a playmaking guard, averaging over 8 assists per game. Whereas Kyrie, of course, 5 assists per game, but, he tends to look for his shots a lot more. So it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to be a lot more aggressive, who will take a little bit of a backseat. We've seen Luka, from the time he's been with this franchise, being the main player. Even when Kristaps Porzingis was there, he was the one who dominated the ball quite often and tried to, propel the team offensively. So it'll be really interesting to see how Kyrie fits in with this. But, of course, we had to see the games played to kind of understand how that would work out.
It would be great if we could just discuss basketball when we talk about Kyrie. But Kyrie is a character, and I use that word specifically, that, he can't keep his nose in his basketball business. He always gets himself involved in other things and becomes the talk of the town for different things. So there was a point when he was at the Cavs where it didn't work out with LeBron. Then, of course, he went on to Celtics. That relationship went sour and he just left. Then he went to the Nets, and we felt as if, okay, perfect. James Harden, KD, Kyrie, this looks like a championship-winning team. And we spoke right here on the Sportsmax Zone about the potential of this team. During the Nets, he had the record number of problems. So at first, he was riddled with injury, Alistair, and we would always talk about him missing because he had injuries. Then he had a problem with the vaccine, so he couldn't play the home games. After that, he decided to get himself meddled with retweeting something, anti-Semitic slur. So how long before Kyrie has a problem with this new team and he decides to trade himself again?
Mark Cuban could only hope all of that is just in the past. And I think with him kind of signaling that he's happy to approve this trade, that he's hoping that all of that is in the past, and he could convince Kyrie Irving that, this is the team that he could stay with. Mark Cuban took a major risk in this situation. Of course, he's on one of the popular television shows, investment, entrepreneurial shows in the U.S., Shark Tank. And, he did a little bit of shark hunting and shark tanking on this weekend where approved this trade for Kyrie Irving. And there's something that has come out to be said that they're hoping that they could convince him to stay, and hopefully Kyrie will allow them to recruit players, because he has a track record of being able to recruit big stars, because he was able to get Kevin Durant to Brooklyn. That's the only big talent I think he's got because of him. So I'm not sure why Mark Cuban thinks that is enough of a track record to do that. But it's one of those things. We just have to wait and see what's going to come up, what he's going to take offense with, and what will probably put him out and allow him to sit out games. But, I'm really nervous for the Mavericks in this case, because, they traded the assets that they did for Kyrie. He's on the last year of his contract, and there's no guarantees that he will want to stay. we all know that he wanted to go to the Lakers. So it's very likely that if he doesn't like what happens with the Mavericks, he could just walk and go to the Lakers in the offseason anyway. So this is a very risky play for the Mavericks. But, they're just hoping that it goes good and the drama will be kept to a minimum. And hopefully he loves playing with Luka and he wants to stay.
Yeah, definitely, because of course they both want to win a title. At the center of all of this, I'm still concerned about the Nets. Are the Nets still title contenders? Does this Kyrie Irving trade now affect Kevin Durant? Because Kevin Durant is somebody that has always stood up for Kyrie when he needed to and, when the opportunity arose. So, it makes me wonder now what happens to the Nets? The Nets, that was the talk of the town, so much so that George and myself had picked the Nets when they had all three of the stars and whatnot, and the team has just, gone to pieces.
It's a cautionary tale for how badly to construct a team and for it to blow up straight away. And yeah, it's one of these things where, can this trade work out for the Nets? I think so. I think they actually got better. And I know this sounds a bit crazy, that, you lost Kyrie Irving and you think that, you'll get better. I think as a team fit, Spencer Dinwiddie might probably be a better fit for the Nets because Kyrie, of course, like I said, is a very ball-dominant guy. And, he tends to suck a lot of the momentum out of the teammates around him. And if you don't have a very prolific scorer with him, like we saw with him with LeBron and with KD, if you don't have that steadying force to be there, to be that main offensive cog, the team can kind of go by the wayside. So, I think this is probably a better fit. But let's add, a plot thickening moment to this. A few minutes ago, it was said that, the Nets might not be finished trading assets. Spencer Dinwiddie, coming from the Mavs, might not stay with the Nets, and, he might be traded for Red VanVleet coming from Toronto. So there's just more things that might happen within the next couple of days that might revamp this team totally. And, Kevin Durant, of course, stuck up for his guy, like you said, Kyrie Irving. But, there were many people wondering about whether or not he was actually wanting to leave because when he requested the trade request, because he was just fed up on what was going on with Kyrie, or he requested to be traded because Kyrie didn't get his way and he wanted to support his boy. So now we're going to really see, will he kind of put in a trade request as well? The Phoenix Suns and Miami Heat have already put in calls for him, and we'll see what he decides to do. Will he stay and try to make this team better, or will he decide to jump ship as well?
Right, and of course he's managing an injury, so we always have to take that into concern when we talk about KD. Now let's just say, KD remains with the Nets. Do you think KD, the person that carries injuries and, has to miss a lot of games, can single-handedly lead this Nets team, to winning or maybe, a title or even being competitive?
Being competitive, absolutely. We saw it, what KD was able to do, dragging this team from the cellar of the Eastern Conference to the second best team in the East, whilst he was healthy, whilst Kyrie was out with this whole anti-Semitic movie sharing by Kyrie Irving. So being competitive, absolutely. I don't doubt that in any sort of way. Depending on who are the final pieces on the Nets team, whether it be Fred VanVleet or Spencer Dinwiddie, would they trade Ben Simmons? Apparently, he has no trade value in the NBA at the moment. No teams really want to trade for him. But depending on the final pieces, if they have a really good cohesive unit around them, and Jacques Vaughn trying to keep this team disciplined and doing what they need to do, I think they could still be very much a threat in the Eastern Conference as the season goes on. So yeah, to answer those questions, very much, I think they could kind of go ahead. If he's healthy, that's a big if, and they could definitely be competitive. But we will have to wait to see how things turn.
Alistair, thank you. Always love chatting basketball with you. We'll talk again soon.
See you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Alistair Albert, they are our NBA correspondent. It's break time here on the Sports Max Zone.